Show. It's great to have you here. I am your Happy Healer for President, Keith Landi. Today's date is June 22nd, 2019, and we have more serious topics to talk about. And as your presidential candidate, we are going to talk about those important subjects. Today, it was supposed to be a show about love. Let me tell you, there's a world out there that we just have to be so cognizant of. And that world is a dangerous one, especially because we're ill-equipped at this time to deal with so many of the pressing issues that we are all seeing are just so real in the world. So I'm very concerned about that. Today we're going to skip the normal play, the opening video, because instead I just want to talk about some recent events, some of my own thoughts. It's also why I'm back a little bit. I just want to cover some stuff and give it the importance it needs. As a serious presidential contender and candidate, at least in my own mind, I am very much so fitting that bill. And the minds of my supporters. I said I'll respond to major events, and I will respond to major events. And I will do that moving forward every single time there is a major event. I will even go further. I will make speeches to which I can be held accountable to my words later on as to what I would do. What my criticism is now for Trump will be very clear, but also will be clear are my own thoughts. And that will all just stand so true. My own actions would feel as if I made the choice myself if I agree with Trump, and would feel as if I was in complete contempt of them as your president if I disagree. That makes it so clear for the American people in this campaign that I am running to decide on who is best to run this country. And we'll even get further into that. I will always keep it fair. I will always keep it honest, and I will always keep it about you. I don't intend to lie, so I have no reason to hide my thoughts. And in fact, every show I do have my written material, but I also have my free thoughts. All of these are, when I write, I just want to stay on point, because when I get off a point, then we don't cover some very important things sometimes. So we're just going to be disciplined, we're going to be organized, and of course you are on the mind of your Happy Healer for that very reason. So I will keep it fair. And I don't intend to lie, that is obvious. We should all be privy to the thoughts of the real ways our presidential candidates think, so that we know how they would react as president, just as the current president is reacting to situations around the world. Think about that. The American people want to hear about those important moments. Let's say this continues going on and I even become more and more popular, and the people see me as serious as I see myself, and the current supporters see me, then they can see how I think as well, couldn't they? It's very important. And that would have done is just to be clear on the moments that the American people wish to know about, and that they are also too experiencing and having their own thoughts. So why wouldn't a presidential candidate be honest about their thoughts, especially when they want to be your next president? They'll be the ones making these decisions. They will be those people making these decisions. I will respond to these monumental events like what's happening in Iran, the big picture in America, and our people's happy future. To fix real problems will always weigh on my mind, and how I decide things, you'll just be so clear on. You will see that the pattern of my decisions as a candidate and the way that I respond to major events are about you. And of course, as your 46th President of the United States, I would be prepared and just continue doing it as I have been doing it the entire time, because running for president is serious business, and that's exactly what I would be doing. These are trying times we live in, folks. It exposes how I would do as if I were your president. So that's how I'm acting. In many ways, other presidential candidates don't tell you even what they think. And here we come at you every night with more honesty than even the current president offers. I'm going to take this jacket off. It's getting a little bit hot for me. Wish I could make this. Oh, I can make the type a little bigger. Well, geez. That helps. This is also going to give people that comfort through the election. Because, and also I don't like this style, just looking at a computer. I'm just saying, just looking at this and keeping the thoughts rolling. I'm so much better with just speaking from my heart. That's where everything's written anyway. But ultimately speaking, we just have to stay on task. And I think the best way for me to do that is to just have these punchlines, because I don't have a professional crew that's with me right now doing all this. Your Happy Healer himself is good at media and does all of his own media. And so that requires so much of me while I'm just back here doing this. We don't have teleprompters, folks. We don't have the stuff that the other candidates are working off of. So you just have to bear with me. Sometimes I can't make all the contact that I honestly desire to make, because that's where the spirit is. That's where we get our energy from. And we have to have that connection, and quite frankly, we most certainly will. No matter what. I won't have it any other way. I wouldn't serve under any other capacity. I am here as a complete human being. And I will serve as your president as a complete human being. So many people are just simply check out. They don't want to be fully involved in the things that they're doing. They don't want to hold themselves to account to being better people. And yes, so love is always on the agenda. Make no mistake about it. Love is always on the agenda. I think I'm treating all Americans well in the way I'm doing things over here, including my own party, naturally, Democrats. We are going to make the most relevant party ever and deliver on the most aggressive and progressive agenda ideas that we have. And to my Trump people, you know that you are dear to your Happy Healer for president. I voted with you. I love you. And it's us who share that undying passion for our Creator. Of course, many Democrats share that undying passion for our Creator with our Republican brothers. We all have to get along. We all have to unite. We have to build a future worth living. That is what my campaign is. That is, I have 2 campaign slogans that are most closest to my heart, that are important to me. Because you matter, that is the very reason I am running. And because for a life worth living. I know what it's like to be stuck in an everyday job, to be stuck in a life where you feel like nobody cares. And that is the reason I'm running. Because you matter and because I care. See, it's always better when you go off the heart, isn't it? You know that you are dear to me. I am unlike all these fake candidates who say fake things. Your Happy Healer for president is just being genuine. Is that fair to Trump supporters? I think it is. That I come on and I talk about the real truth, that I say the real truth, that I critique the real truth, and that is my form of attack ads. I'm not out trying to make fake things up, because the American people have been put through hell, quite frankly, myself included. We just want what matters to them to get out to the forefront quickly. And so I'm doing my very best. Yes, sometimes I stumbled just a moment ago. And then we get our footing, we get right back into it, and we move forward. Well, we just rely on our Creator in that way. We rely on the support and help and love from each other. And we rely on the need of the mission at hand as it currently stands. Folks, I couldn't do this if I was not genuine. This is a genuine attempt to fix the problems in our country, and to do it in a way that actually solves them. That people only get to live for 70, 80, 90, 100 years. Well, we want to increase it as much as we can. But that the promise is not being delivered to them, because we are not reaching where we can be to change lives. People thought they'd be like Jetsons before the year 2000 came. Okay, granted, that's a bit far, even for today's standards. But by golly, we can have a spiritual new realm where we are putting love first, and where we are putting humanity first, and we can get people out of dead-end jobs, really, that don't provide true human value and true human worth, that can otherwise, A, not be needed at all, or B, be done by a computer or a robot. And let me tell you how many jobs are not needed at all. You tell me, actually. How many of you show up to jobs where you're just there, and I call it the justification of a paycheck, the justification of a living? Folks, this is a justification for being alive. I don't think you need justification for that. Your God has given you that. And quite frankly, humanity has enough ingenuity at this point for all of us in America, who has built this country that is 25% of the world's global economy, yet only 5% of the world's population. You know that came from the brilliance of the American people, that ought to work for the American people, and that there are descendants of people who have fought for this country going back hundreds of years to its founding, who are homeless on the street today. That is not a fair allocation of resources. Excuse me. Some people are out there talking about giving reparations to black people. No, folks, that's not the answer. All people need reparations. All you got to do is just look at the state of the world around us. Come to my neighborhood and look around at the suffering that I see. And then you know that all people need reparations. Come across some of the drug addicts that I have met in my time. Come across some of the people who are just still till this day still needing, and nobody cares, and they are left on their own. Tell them that they are supposed to be without love and on the streets for the rest of their lives, because they're already heading for death. And let me tell you, those who die are the ones with the biggest hearts. Those who go to drugs are the ones who are in most pain about the conditions of our world, and then they soon thereafter die. That's where they go next. So we're losing our best crop to bad times. And we need to realize, folks, the more you become alive and the more you become awake to the situation going on in this world and in our country, the more painful it is. So the way we do this is with love, and that love is a strong, powerful energy, and that with that you can ascend and bounty to do, unbelievable things, just like we have done in the past. We have literally put a bounty on America's future, saying if we don't build a nuclear bomb, the Nazis will. And we did it. And we did it. Don't you know that's American ingenuity? Don't you know that? And they want to take that from you. They want to take it from my father, who served in North Korea. He'll tell you that. He served in Korea. And I don't mean in recent times either. He was there when it was the real war. Let me tell you, folks, this is a time for serious people. We all got to be serious. All citizens need to activate. We're done with the days of not caring. That's what led us to this situation. We're done with the days of greed, literally encompassing our lives, deciding everything for us, even if we want to live. I don't even need this at this point. It's just getting in the way of things at this point. Instead of living with the compassion and passion, raw passion, because that's what you get when you have love, Instead of living with that, we're living with hate. And you know why? Because we're going to the bottom of the barrel for our emotions. In the past, that's the only way to get done, was to get people in on the bribe, was to be greedy. People were just so barbaric. Well, they had their age of enlightenment too. Do you mean to tell me that's the last age of enlightenment we ever need, folks? Is that even reasonable? And then you wonder why we have all of these problems. And then you wonder, I wonder why you wonder. I wonder why you wonder. Because it's just so obvious, and you ought to see it yourself. And that's why I'm running. People ask, why are you running? Why don't you first run as a mayor? Because I have no interest in being your next A, political candidate, B, your condescending candidate. Excuse me, where has that gotten us? Where has that gotten us? And with Trump, he's just so different as a candidate and has opened some doors, but he's not showing the love. He's not the right guy either. You've got to pick somebody who's talking about the things that matter. You're not picking a best friend. You're not picking somebody who you're going to be hanging out with on Fridays. You're picking somebody who's going to get the job done, who thinks every moment of their life, what needs to get done, let's get that job done. And what needs to get done is the job for the American people. That's what needs to get done. I yearn for the day to stand on the stage with the other candidates to hold them accountable to this truth. To this truth. And you better believe this other information I have over here is so incredibly important, and I'm going to get it out to you in a different way because it's too important to sit here with it and fumble around with it because it's small type and because it's just not the way I'm going to do it. We're going to set it out. We're not going to put it on the live show at all. I'm just going to make a pre-recorded show because some of that stuff is really good. But greed. It's like a cancer on our society. And make no mistake about it, capitalism is based on greed. We all know that. We just know how true it is. We just know how true it is. And we have to step back from the greed that is like a cancer, and it's coming through all of our lives. It's intoxicating our lives. It's intoxicating our families, our businesses, our ability to get anything done. You can't ask for a favor from your friend without expecting to have to pay. Okay. Payment is a good thing for your services, isn't it? It's a very good thing. But when it's the only thing people move for, there's a problem. And folks, in our society, there is a huge problem. Now, let's say capitalism was the number one thing we needed to work off in order to get to this point. Well, hooray for that. We don't need to demonize capitalism. It was our friend. It made this possible. But we also shouldn't be foolish and so in love with capitalism that can only get us so far without considering that it's also got the capability to hold us back. This is not a truth that I believe to be true. This is a truth I know to be true. And well, the very nature of truth is under attack, isn't it? So, we are a truth campaign as well. We just have to be. And that's why I'm taking these measures. Every night, you know where to expect your happy healer. For President Keith Landi. I know who my identity is, but I also know what my experiences are. I also know that I matter, ultimately speaking, we all matter, and that they're not treating us that way. So what are we going to do about it? That's the question. The question is not, is it happening, folks? The question was never, is it happening? The question is, and has always been, what are we going to do about it? And the answer is, profoundly, so far, and much to the demise of many of us, nothing. We have done nothing about it. We get confused, we get tricked, we get sidelined, we get lied to. We're told what's wrong with us. We're told what's best for us. We're told everything and utterly everywhere. These candidates infect our lives. But they do it with hate and everything and anything that can possibly help us is left out. So folks, this is about changing. It's about saying we've got tough changes to make. Can we make those tough changes? Can we be humble? Can we look for a future that's worth living? Or should we all just try to accept the inevitable that, well, the lies is just a part of life, and that the greed, we just have to live with it forever. It never changes. And that your prospects in this world, if you're not already well off, it doesn't matter what great things your family had done in the past, we don't get credit for that. So ultimately, you're left in despair. Well, then you're just an American. You are an American. You are an American. Folks, that's the plight of the American in today's world. I'm going to change my seating around and come a little closer. I just wanted to stand up for part of it because I was just motivated to say some of this stuff that's also important. And of course, I'm moving lights around in the office. But after about a good 20 or 30 minutes of that, I think it's time to go ahead and transition a little bit here. So we are. And obviously today's show, it's a weekend show. I'm going to come on. Not every single show is going to be like the last one you've seen, because not every need is like the last need. Not every day is like the situation the day before either, is it? So just remain patient with me. The rest of this show is raw and real. Raw and real. Raw and real. I say that because it's not planned, except for to say that it's all here and here, and in your heart too, and in your mind too. I just have to connect it to you. That's my challenge. I have to connect what you already know to be true with our current circumstances, because we have to do something so special here. It's not enough that we can just be like every politician that's out there. They're not doing it. Folks, if I sounded like them, I wouldn't be qualified either. Okay. So today has been a day that has just kept going for me. So busy. So much effort. If you ever decide to run for president, do it right and have the right reasons behind why you're doing it. I'll support your candidacy, even while I'm running. Why? Because we need good people running. We need great people running, quite frankly, with our problems we're facing. We need great people running. And right now, all we have are greedy people that are sharing more and more greed. Man, this is so much more comfortable when I get a little bit more relaxed. My brain can work a little better. Well, it always works great, but the point is that I can I want to give you guys what's on my mind. And I feel like I'm cheating you when I just go off of written material only, because that's how the liars do it. And while I have these images of the liars lying in my own mind as I'm reading, and that affects with my ability to continue reading even, because I see their liars yapping, their moves moving, their lips moving, and I know what they're doing. I see right through it. Not even for a moment did I believe it. In fact, I know in advance I don't want to watch it, but because I just need to know what they're going to say, I listen. I could rest assure you they're not listening to your Happy Healer for president. They're not. And by the time they do, it'll be too late, because by then there'll be so much momentum, they'll never be able to come back in and compete with the Happy Healer. Here's the deal. If we get popular, we're not going back. And right now we're not even, to To be popular? No. You've never heard of your Happy Healer for President yet. We're just doing the right things. We're staying steady and busy. And yeah, Nick, that's very nice of you, my brother. The guy follows me around. There's a lot of people that just live with hate. And there's a lot of people that I see that do that too. And make no mistake about it, the things that I'm doing are very courageous. And a lot of people, they don't want to do things that themselves are courageous. So instead, they criticize people who do. And that's fine, because I like that. I like the exchange. I feel like I perform better when there is some meat in the game. And I feel like that when people are there and they're listening and they're intent and they are saying things, that I'm responding to that, and that I even get more truth out and things that matter to you ultimately out. And also, I'm sure you can relate with a lot of that stuff yourself, that it's the largest issue in our country right now, the hate that we're all experiencing. That's what I'm saying, that hate. I get so much of it myself. Right now, just as I speak to you, I opened up to you days ago. Nobody knew this, that I said that I had a drug habit of my own that I had gotten over. And today, I work ever harder for your success. I work because I care. I work because drugs almost took me to death. I work because I care that much. And, well, some people would use such an opportunity to hurt other people. Do you think that I'm fearful of that? I'm not fearful of that. Because when you go through a transforming experience like drug addiction, and you come out of it the other side, one person, a whole person, and better off, and you see other people who have no idea the journey that you went through, and that you're tackling the toughest subjects. So yeah, at times you perspire, and you're serious, and you're genuine. This is a time for serious people, make no mistake about it. And instead, they just want to cower and say the most obscene things that have no part in an honest discussion with good people who are trying to change the world for the better. But they are human too. And speaking of which, I inject myself in areas that need love, and I purposely stay there. And instead of becoming like them, not loving, I instead stay strong and steadfast. And folks, well, I have it for these people that I'm talking about now, specifically in this case, a guy named Nick, they are not aware. They are not aware that I have all this stuff, but I do. And I told them, but I don't think they believe me. Stand by. Hello? Oh, I'm good. I'm live right now, so yeah, we could talk. No, you're fine. We can talk real quick. Go ahead. Okay. 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 Well, just tell me what I need to say, and then let me think about this. I do. I really do. Today he basically, yeah, I really do. Okay. Okay. And then I'll just give you a holler tomorrow. All right. Sounds good. Bye. Yeah. So business calls for your Happy Healer and Happy Healer for President. So we just have to stay steady in the moment and doing the right things. And that's what I'll always be. I'll always be transparent. I never said coming into this that I'm a perfect person. And if that's what you want, then what you're going to have is a perfect liar. That's what you're going to have. So I'm not trying to convince the world I'm a perfect person. But when I see somebody out there who I know is so far from perfection and that they have way bigger issues than somebody who's improving their lives, I'm going to call it out every time. You better believe it. And I'm going to have fun doing it, because that's how we wake up people. And that's how we show people what matter in a way that's meaningful. You actually see real pain, you see real people, you see real honest engagements, people sharing their truth. People don't share their truth for that very reason. That then someone as naive as Nick will come along and say things that just have no relevance to the conversation. We're talking about improving lives. And here comes Nick with a low IQ. He wants to be a doctor, by the way. I'm a little bit concerned. And, well, I'm not surprised because it was a doctor who put me... Let's actually make this show about my drug addiction at this point. I would like to go on about that. That is a great topic. And it was the doctors who put your Happy Healer there. It was the doctors then who put me there. And by the way, I was a rising star in my family, a rising star in every sense of the word. And the doctors put me there. That's how much they care about their good people in this country. Yeah, we'll talk about that story too, Nick. Come on. Why don't you come on the show, brother? I'd love to have you on board. Nick from the Drone Lounge. We're going to be bringing some real stories that from in the past I dealt with these guys. I won't be bringing them all into the picture because this can go very national, but some of them are just your most vile individuals who say the things that we all need to repent ourselves if we have talked like that or done those kinds of things to our maker. And we have to show love, and we have to show that we are willing to be with love, because then we can have a unified country. Then we can fight for things that matter. But until we do that, we're just going further in the deep. And by the way, I started out happy. I had my drug addiction, that pain, it brought me to a place called happiness after a while because I got rid of it. The hell that I experienced growing up, being homeless, that pain, it brought me to the Happy Healer. That's right. 340 pounds. It's hard to move around when you're overweight. Well, after I had the Happy Healer in me, I was able to do so much. And I know that this country would be the same way, with tactics that are about love and tactics that are about inclusion and about communication and about truth and about discussion and about resolving things and having a commitment for the end result of a resolution that works for all. What is so bad about that? Why is that not what we are all striving for? I just don't know why we're not there, especially since we can have that. It's so easy to be a kind person. We are going to make that a staple of this campaign. And if we have to get angry and we have to push hard, it will be with love, but it will be firm, and it will be for this purpose. You better believe it, because I've seen too much death. You want to talk about the drug epidemic? I can talk about a dead brother. You want to talk about the drug epidemic? I can talk about myself. Indeed, myself. A victim. In the worst way, like so many Americans. Finding themselves in the year for myself, it was so long ago, it feels like. Such a kid. Really? Yeah, I'm 40 now. It was back when I was 22. And could have been around 22, 23, is my early 20s. And, well, they wrote for me prescription pain pills, and that's where it started. And from there, they just go deeper and go harder and go longer. They continue to want you to get more and more on this stuff. You know the story. It's a somber one. Your Happy Healer shares it with you. And I want to back this light up here. There you go. All right, that's better. Yeah, it's a somber one. And I'm glad that we're talking about this. We're just going to talk about this. And maybe I should have just started out talking about this. Thank you, Nick. See how you added to the conversation, my brother? Okay. And actually, I love Nick. I love all the guys over there in the Drone Lounge who actually said some of the most vile things. And I don't judge them to their soul about that. and we can still get along. And mostly anyone who I have any conflict with is just because they have a hard time with the things that I say. Well, makes you wonder, why is anyone having a hard time with love and with truth and with these things? I live this life. I really don't come out of this thinking. Like, it's just so important to be in this thinking. And it's such a fun place to be. Why would I come out of it? So I'm a little bit weird? Yeah. Then I say you should be weird too. And that we should all be so weird, loving so hard, and having so much passion doing things. That's how I've gotten good at things. That's how I beat my drug addiction. That's how I beat everything I've ever done. I've done it with passion. I never worked for the money. I've never worked for the money. I found it to be, I knew as a youngster, there's things that are instilled in us, and it's true too. I never worked for the money because I knew it would hold me back if I did. And ultimately speaking, I knew that if I worked just solely for the money, you have to work for money, but if I worked just solely for the money, that I wouldn't work as hard. I knew that. And so I had to think of, okay, I'm working for something great. And that the work that I do, it's a picture portrait of myself in society, in the public, and that everybody can see me. But that the best part is I am the artist. I'm the artist that can paint my own portrait. That's a great thing. That means I can paint a great portrait of myself. It's represented in all of society and all of humanity. And I just do it by the work that I do. I do it well. And I stay committed. That was my thinking. That was my thinking then. That's how I became a general manager at the age of 18, turning 19. And that is exactly how I'm thinking now. And that is how I'd run as your president. That is how I would be as your president. And that is what I would inspire from our citizens. Like I said, I would be your inspiring chief. And that would be an important role. We need that. We need that. And quite frankly, I almost feel like it's not just this time. We always need... Like, why aren't we getting that? We always need constant help and constant, consistent caring and showing that you care. I mean, people act like in order to be civil with one another, it means not caring. Like, and as if you do care, that you've penetrated some personal bounds. People are going too far. They're becoming robots. So this is a wake-up call, and if you don't wake up, well then more of the awake people will simply become drug addicts and die. So that's kind of what's happening, if you haven't noticed. But many of you are in denial. It's the truth. Many of you are. And the cold hard truth coming at you is painful. So painful it stings you. Well, you just be prepared to continue getting truth from your happy healer. And when I'm off script is when you get the most truth. But we have to be on script too. We have to be organized and we have to be driven. I mean, sure, the world is a magical place, but we're not getting anywhere magical unless we do the hard work. The world is a magical place, and we are not going to build on the promises of American human ingenuity unless we do the hard work. So, my fellow Americans, Nick, I say get out of your vocabulary the hate and the vile attitudes that you have with each other. If you're a Democrat, find a Republican to hug. If you're a Republican, find a Democrat to hug and start making these inroads. Because, folks, we're heading towards a civil war. And if you don't not want a civil war now, I assure you, you will not want a civil war when it happens. Because death and dying and hardship is nothing that I am not used to. I've felt plenty of it in my life. So much of it. You wouldn't even imagine it of me looking at me. Well, I've got the stories to share. And by the way, those are the kinds of people we need to be putting up. Because everybody is judging the entire white race off of just the people who are connected and privileged. And by the way, I don't even see race. I see humanity, I see souls, and that's where true higher living is. Because, I see people and I say, you think you're the meat. You think you're the actual meat and the bones and the flesh. You're so much greater than that. And if you really think that's all you are, then no wonder why you're acting the way you are. And what a travesty. Wait until you get back to your real home. And then you'll know. Then you shall know. And it will be a sad day for you because it didn't have to be that way. And it'll be a sad day for you because you could have actually lived with love and a life worth living, the one that we're talking about building here. There's no guarantee we're going to be successful. That's why I'm pushing hard. You better believe this is a push for life and death. You better believe it. Oh yeah, I've lived it, so I know. That's how I know. You either make a decision to live a life worth living, or you simply, a lot of people are just not living. They're becoming robots. To me, that's death. So I'll just say it right out. You either live or you die. That's your choices in this world. You either live or you die. One common effect of almost every American is that they experience depression in their life. And when you get depression, you feel like it's so foreign, like it shouldn't be there. Depression comes because that's what motivates us to make change. It's so harmful, it's so hard to deal with. And it shows us, that depression shows us the truth and the error of our ways. If we mistaken and we go back to false prophets, false ideas that don't have hope of fixing real problems, then we find ourselves in another depression once again. Those depressions are little by little killing us and killing our soul, and yet we go back again and again and again and believe false prophets, believe false lies, believe false... How can you guys do this over and over again? You're killing yourselves. And the ones who are loudest about it, who think they know everything the most, those are the ones who go down with... They have the least humility, and they're the ones who need the most because they have the most violent deaths. I say that because they're just so thoroughly embarrassed, so thoroughly trashed in this world, so thoroughly lost, and then when they die, they are so thoroughly in pain through that whole death because they refuse to see truth. They refuse to let truth work for them. And truth is so clear to say, bring me in any situation and we'll talk about it. I'm actually going to be putting out, I have so much material to put out, and I'm just ever so focused on the message, building the site, and working towards the future that we all need. And, you know, when the campaign is this small, most of the work for a candidate like me, your people's candidate that's ground level, is... My goodness, such hard work. And running for president ought to be hard, but not impossible. And right now it feels impossible, even for the people who are most qualified. And that's a problem in our country. So I'll break through. I promise you that. I will break through. I promise you that. I will break through. I will not end my candidacy. I will only push harder. If harder doesn't do it, I will push harder. And you know I will be able to find the energy because I have a higher power that I rely on. And we dig deep for what's right. We dig deep. And we just do what's right. And when we do wrong, we stop immediately and we apologize and we backtrack because we aren't perfect. But we do what's right. We yearn to do what's right. We work for what's right. We stick to what's right. We learn. Remember, knowing everything is not even possible. Because when you feel once you know everything, you better go back and retrain yourself. Ultimately, there's going to be things that change. Besides, my view of the world is complicated. I think things change all the time. So you better always be learning. Always be learning. Always be learning. Never stop learning. The threats change all the time. The threats are real. You always have to be learning. So we are going to make a dedication for learning, and that means we have to educate our people and never stop educating them. That means we'll have free education institutions that are the best in the world, and that we're focused on humanity and building humanity to be the best and brightest. We already are the best and brightest. We just have to build upon that. But being the best does not mean that you simply stop just because you're the best. You go further. All right, folks, I've been on for long enough this evening, especially considering that today has been a very busy day. I have had so much going on. The situation with Iran is bothering me. I want to come out and make a speech on it, so I'm working on, not the speech I was working on tonight, that's different. That's just a monologue for what we're talking about here, but an actual speech. And that's sort of what we were talking about earlier, because I do have a couple of things. I have a lot of things in the works. Running for president is hard work. That's what I mean. If I don't look like I'm working hard, that's a problem, especially when my campaign is this small. I need to be working hard or I'm not a serious candidate. So I'll be tripping a lot more, and I'll be doing a lot more things even more impressive than ever. But we're just not afraid to engage, because we're engaging for what's right. And ultimately, when you engage for what's right, then you're on God's side, and you're on the people's side, and you're on the right side of history, more importantly for American history, because we're our country and we love our country. And we have to be the best. We have to actually show that American exceptionalism equates to something special to the rest of the humanity in this world. They have no other, there is a responsibility of being the best. If you're the best and you still show that, then you can't. Now, we represent the West. Remember that. And we were talking about Iran. Iran wants to see the West fail. And so does a lot of Muslim in the Middle East that are under their beliefs in the Middle East. Many of them would prefer to see the Middle East do well over the United States and the West. That's not hate talk. That's the truth. We have to acknowledge the truth. The truth works for us when we allow it to. So Iran is a threat to America. What Donald Trump has done, quite frankly, was the right decision, pulling out of the nuclear deal, because it would have allowed Iran to essentially get a nuclear weapon, and we can't allow that. Not even if it just gave us some years. That's not the responsible thing to do for future generations. And I plan on being alive for a while, so I definitely don't want to see that reality either, as I know many of you also feel the same truth. So, pulling out of the nuclear deal with Iran was the right thing to do, only if you plan on having a strict and strong and honest and steady approach about how to deal with this thing, because the moment you pull out of it, it becomes a very complicated matter, the one we see now. The moment you pull out of it, you already know that they chant death to America on the normal on their streets. Besides chanting death to America, they are against our ideology. Many of them think that we live like how the devil wants, and quite frankly, we don't. We have the capacity to love and do so much better than what we are, and we aren't helping ourselves in many ways, and we're not advancing, but that does not mean that we ought to rid ourselves the pleasure of a Western lifestyle or being alive or having a happy life. And that's what they want to take from us. Make no mistake about it. That is why 9/11 happened, and you can't be so naive as to forget that 9/11 ever happened. Further, you can't be so naive. If you are running for president of the United States and for political points, you are unwilling to acknowledge the truths I have just said, then you are a danger to America, and you are a danger to the future that we're fighting for. The one that says you matter and you have purpose, the one that says a life worth living. Because if you don't get it right on matters of national security, then all of a sudden we have some matters that come up before we can take care of getting us to a great place. We have to fight a war. It's a matter of life and death. And by the way, these guys, they want nuclear weapons for a very clear purpose. Don't be naive about this, my brothers and sisters. Don't be naive. Iran wants a nuclear weapon so that they are already a known sponsor of terror. We know this about them. Guys, if this is a question or a debate, then let's have that debate. Be the courageous one to say that Iran is not a state sponsor of terror and that they don't love America. We know that they don't love America. Be the one to say that they do, and we can have that debate then, because I don't hear anyone saying that, but I do hear people saying that we should have stayed in a deal that essentially is like a permission slip to have a nuclear weapon. I'm strongly against it. I never would have signed it in the first place, and quite frankly speaking, I would have done exactly like Trump did by getting out. Now, here's where I would have done different. Trump then went on with his bravado instead of being steady. And he did his saber rattling and the way he does, which is not safe. He's trying to bring about fast change. So what we're going to do is I'm going to focus on this issue since it's a big, big issue. It really is a big issue. This can have defining moments for our country, and I'm going to say that loud and clear right now. And I'm going to make some predictions in my speech, and we're going to get that out. So, and that's the way we're going to end it tonight. We've been on for close to an hour. We were on quite on time today, and I will see you tomorrow night at 9 p.m. God bless you. Take care. And take care of your families. And make sure you hug somebody today and tell them how much you love them.